there are some MCU opinions that go decidedly against the grain, and make some truly decent points in doing so. We're here to give those unpopular points of view their due, even if we balk at them at first glance. The Hulk's powers are very cool, especially their exponential nature. Historically, the Hulk's degree of strength is proportional with his anger. There are more than a few comic storylines in which fighting makes him angrier, which makes him stronger, which makes his opponents escalate, which makes him even angrier. He's a perpetual motion machine of brute force, with no apparent upper limit of ability. But the MCU consistently keeps him from being the most powerful brawler of them all. In the wake of Infinity War, one thinks of Thor before they think of Hulk when it comes to the best brawlers. It's not just that Hulk's full strength hasn't been unleashed in a while, though. Instead, it's that he hasn't gotten a major set piece since Thor Ragnarok. Fortunately, becoming Professor Hulk doesn't mean he's retired from being an unstoppable golem of blind fury. In fact, it might even drive that point home a little better. Banner put his brain in the other guy, and yet he's still capable of being absolutely overwhelmed with rage. That's how strong the Hulk's powers are. Get to it, Marvel. As it stands, the Hulk just doesn't feel all that incredible. What comes to mind when you think of Scarlet Witch's powers? Red special effects? Telekinesis? Illusions? This vagueness is actually pretty in line with her powers as they've historically been depicted. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby kept her abilities notoriously ill-defined to allow for creative interpretation. This was a smart storytelling move that also made Scarlet Witch insanely powerful. What can she do exactly? She's created entirely new realities, erased thousands of mutants' powers, and resurrected a handful of dead people over the years. The problem is, at this point, she's really more of a Scarlet Goddess than a Scarlet Witch. But her powers might just stretch a bit too far in the MCU. There's not much reason to believe they don't, so it's not too far-fetched when you see people comparing her to the likes of Doctor Strange, Thor, and Vision. After all, we've seen her toss massive machinery through the air, immerse the Avengers in illusory realities, and shatter the Mind Stone. She was a sloppier fighter in Age of Ultron, true, but that almost makes her even more impressive. If it only took a few years for her to go from novice to Thanos Thrasher, where will she be in a few more?
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
You will.
When you think about character development in the MCU, you think about the headliners, such as Tony Stark, T'Challa, and Bruce Banner. The Guardians of the Galaxy don't really come to mind here. Sure, we love them, but for what they are, the goofballs of the MCU. One of them is a pyromaniac raccoon after all, and his best friend is a tree. Somehow, this group of misfits have the best character development in the entire MCU. Hear us out. None of the Guardians are currently anywhere near the place they started. Star-Lord is still a bit of a fool, but he's proven he can shoulder the responsibility of caring for others. He's refused unlimited power when it crossed a moral line, and he learned to reach out to those in need. Gamora and Nebula overcame that iciness Thanos instilled in them and found real sisterhood. Rocket, with Yondu's help, confronted his own tendency to lash out when he's feeling vulnerable. Even Drax has learned to care for others, even if he's still not great at it. The Guardians don't clash in the same old ways with every new installment. They face new challenges because they're new people. It's some of the best writing the MCU has to offer, and it's poised to get even better, deeper, and stranger from here.
Go through, find the girl,
It's just
settle down if you want.
an unspoken thing.
What do you remember about Iron Man 3? Probably just one or two things, like the Mandarin twist or the kid Tony spoils with hyper-advanced tech. It's fallen through the cracks of the MCU, as much as any Marvel movie can. It's not Iron Man 2, which was the go-to choice for the lesser MCU entry, until Thor: The Dark World came along. And it's not Iron Man, which has the honor of having started the MCU in the first place. It's just there. Some dislike the Mandarin twist. Some think the actual villain is forgettable. Most everyone else hasn't thought about it in years. And that's a real shame, because Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man movie of all, despite being a little weird. Somehow, this movie combines corporate warfare, Tony Stark's chronic pain attacks, and a massive twist on a classic Marvel villain, and the destruction of nearly every Iron Man suit, and makes it look easy. We get some lo-fi antics with Tony stranded in rural Tennessee, and an action-packed climax in which Pepper Potts gets to deliver the final blow. To say nothing of the emotional drama between the two, which hits new heights here.
Who's the hot mess now?
Still debatable. Probably tipping your way a little bit. Why don't you dress like this at home? Sport bra, the whole deal.
It's unlike any other Marvel movie, and it's likely that no one out there loves every single thing about it. However, it's probably a whole lot better than you remember, and well worth revisiting. Age of Ultron is the other Avengers movie. You know, there's the first one, then Infinity War, then Endgame, and you could make a real argument for Captain America: Civil War as essentially an Avengers movie as well. But Age of Ultron, well, Age of Ultron is the other one, with Vision, an evil AI, and something about Quicksilver, but not the cool one from the X-Men movies. It's not forgotten. No MCU movie could be, but it's not beloved. It has its strengths, but they go tragically unsung. Watch it again. Remember the party scenes? Remember how fun it was to watch the Avengers hang out? That sort of genuine camaraderie gave way to later relationships, something increasingly difficult to do in the overstuffed MCU. Sure, the razzle-dazzle heroics are fantastic, but we wouldn't care without the moments of true connection underlying every action scene. Moreover, the ideas that Ultron introduces, the responsibilities of power, whether the Avengers should play offense or defense, non-human intelligence, have ended up forming the foundation of the last few years of the MCU movies. No, you're not going to revisit it as often as the other Avengers movies, but without it, you wouldn't have some of your favorite moments, movies, and relationships.
Someone has been playing an intricate game and has made pawns of us. Once all these pieces are in position...
Triple Yahtzee?
You think you could find out what's coming?
I do.
The Hawkeye of the MCU is many things. He's a dad, a loner, a top-tier archer, and occasionally a tattooed renegade in the Tokyo underworld. Somehow, this never quite adds up to much. This isn't to say he doesn't have his fans. But how many people are out there buying posters of Clint Barton specifically? Do kids dress up as him in any major way? If he'd been the one to die on Vormir, would there be scores of fans on social media decrying the death of their fave? Signs point to no. There's a good reason for that. The Clint Barton of the comics is a different character entirely. Some runs make him insincere. Some lead into his anti-authoritarian streak. And some take a uniquely low-key approach to the character. Matt Fraction and David Aja's celebrated 2012 Hawkeye series blew the fans' minds by simply telling stories about what Hawkeye does on his days off. While the MCU character feels so flexible that he ends up shapeless, Hawkeye of the comics' flexibility allows his essential traits to rise to the top. Whether he's in Brooklyn, in a S.H.I.E.L.D. office, or on a speeding asteroid, he's scrappy, wry, and optimistic. That character has never quite shown up on the big screen, though perhaps the fact that the Disney Plus series is using the 2012 run's iconography is a good sign for the future. All things considered, Doctor Strange is a solid movie. It introduces an intriguing new character, showcases his dizzying cool corner of the MCU, and culminates in an innovative showdown with the big baddie. And yet, comicbook.com has a point when it says that Doctor Strange plays like several concepts of a movie at odds with one another. Listen, we all like the part where he's humbled by a hallucinatory trip through time and space. We all laugh at Wong's burgeoning Beyoncé fandom. But when's the last time you reflected upon the central romance? How about the character of Caecilius? And frankly, doesn't the magical martial arts journey feel a little rushed? The parts of Doctor Strange that are strong are so strong, but even they can't eclipse the weaker and more disparate elements of the film. It wants to introduce old lore, tell a story about a smug jerk learning to do better, shove in a romance, and convince us that Strange masters enough magic to go up against longtime users in, a few months? Maybe a year or two at the most? Superheroes encompass many genres and require a certain amount of suspension of disbelief. But even if you love Doctor Strange, you've got to admit it's a bit much. Could anyone have predicted the waves Loki would make in the MCU? Fans fell in love with the trickster god en masse following his appearances in Thor and the Avengers. In retrospect, it's not hard to understand how this happened. Loki is a fascinating character, torn between no fewer than 3 opposing factions at any given time. He's a prince, an outcast, a god, a beloved brother, and a chronic liar. Plus, he's played by Tom Hiddleston, who musters some truly Shakespearean thunder in every sly scene.
I'll not fight you, brother! I'm not your brother. I never was.
At least, that's the party line, but not everyone agrees. And quite honestly, Loki sucks. Take a second to think about Loki's actions in the MCU. He betrays Thor. He works with aliens to destroy Earth. He betrays Thor again. He hides his dad away in a nursing home and takes the throne for himself. Yes, he also fights alongside his brother to take down Hela. And he dies trying to save the Asgardians from Thanos. But that betrayal to heroism ratio isn't pretty. Moreover, it's easy to think of him as tragic. But really, is he? Okay, Odin and Frigga never told him he was a frost giant. Okay, he's been raised in Thor's shadow. That's tough stuff. It is. However, majorly enhanced by the fact that he always had his family's love. Loki is a lot of fun to watch, but he's also pretty darn whiny. Plus, he took advantage of Thor's love of snakes.
So I went to pick up the snake to admire it, and he transformed back into himself, and he was like, "Yeah, it's me!" And he stabbed me. We were 8 at the time.
So, you're a superhero. You work with a literal god, a man so strong he can keep a helicopter from taking off with his bare hands, and a billionaire literally encased in the most cutting-edge protection that money can buy. You are a person. A person molded into a perfect assassin by Perfect Assassin School, granted, but still a person. No super soldier serum, no suit of armor, no godhood. You face down extraterrestrial monsters the size of whales with pistols, taser bracelets, and your own 2 fists. The person who does that is about as courageous as it gets. That person happens to be Natasha Romanoff, and you can make a strong case for her as the bravest Avenger of all. It's not just the fact that Natasha does these things, however. It's that she doesn't have to. The country that trained her is gone. With her skills and after all the hero work she's done, she could retire to a beach somewhere. But no, Natasha chooses over and over again to do the hard thing. She's not bound by ancient family ties, time displacement, or public scrutiny. She does it because she knows she can be of use, and because she knows that her own fear doesn't outweigh the good she could do if she conquers it. That's not just brave, it's outright noble. Should the public trust superheroes? It's a question Marvel characters have been tackling for decades. The MCU took a hard look at it in Captain America: Civil War, which pits Tony Stark against Steve Rogers in an ideological battle for the fate of the Avengers. Tony, scarred by Ultron's rampage, supports UN oversight of the team, while Steve is skeptical. It's a fascinating conflict and a believable one for Steve to be mired within. After all, he knows what it's like to be allied with those in power. Naturally, he's more acquainted with its downsides. It's his movie, so it takes his ride. And yeah, he's got a point. As John Boyega memorably noted, you don't want to wait for Cap to produce his permit before saving you from a burning building. But maybe Cap was dead wrong. The 117 countries who signed the Sokovia Accords aren't to be dismissed, as fans who think Cap is on the wrong side of civil war argue. What if Thor is in a forgiving mood towards Loki on the wrong day? What if Nebula is brought in as auxiliary help and bloodily demonstrates her total lack of interest in preserving bystanders' lives? Some degree of oversight isn't a bad idea. Where you come to rest on the issue is something you've got to work out for yourself, but it's a topic worth tackling regardless. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite superheroes are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.